It's week 9. We need these wins now more than ever as the playoffs are right around the corner. So if you have any questions about your lineup or you just want a second opinion, drop anything down in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. Now, my number one pickup on the week is at the quarterback position, Sam Darnold. Now, if you have Baker Mayfield or Jalen Hurts on bye this weekend, not only should Sam Darnold be your priority, I think you're going to be comfortable starting him this week because I think he can finish top 10 at the position. He's only owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues, 21% of ESPN leagues, and it's similar across other platforms. But this week, he's playing Washington on the road, which is a top 5 matchup for the quarterback position. But this is a guy in Sam Darnold that takes advantage of these top 10 matchups against Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Jacksonville, all top 10 matchups for the quarterback position. He's had at least 20 to 25 fantasy points in all 3 of those matchups. He's had 2 weeks to prep for this Washington team that might get Jaden Daniels back in this matchup, meaning might be a bit of a high-scoring game here with Jaden Daniels back in the mix. But ultimately, Sam Darnold checks all the boxes. I want him this week starting against the Washington Commanders. Now, I think the popular pickup this week will be Troy Franklin, a guy that has had 40 total fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. He has had 3 total touchdowns and 18 targets to go along with that, again, in these 2 best games of his season. But this is a guy that isn't necessarily a pickup and play next week as they have the Houston Texans. Not a great matchup for the wide receiver position, but I'm saying to pick this guy up and stash him because the last 5 weeks of the fantasy season, he has 3 top 10 matchups. So, again, going into the playoffs and, of course, our fantasy playoffs, he could be a key contributor if any injuries happen to some of our star players. But here is the tale of the tape, and yes, I know my face cam is blocking the numbers, but this is what you need to know. Everybody on your screen is owning about 50% of the major 2 platforms, so if they're out there, I think you can grab them and stash them, if not play them, going into next week. Quarterback, we talked about Sam Darnold. Running backs, this is before Monday Night Football, so I want to clarify. I still do believe in Brashard Smith for the long haul. This is a guy that next week has Buffalo, top 5 matchup, big game as far as seeding there with the Chiefs and the Bills. Brashard Smith, his receiving ability could come into a big factor in that one. Now, the other guy, and he's the obvious one, is Tyrone Tracy, the running back now of the New York Giants. Of course, he's had that number 1 role for a couple years now after Saquon Barkley left town. But Cam Scatterbo going down with that horrific ankle injury, he's done for the season, and they don't really have any other notable running backs that can take touches out of Tracy's hands. So Tyrone Tracy with Jackson Dart, they could make some magic happen for our fantasy lineups. Now, Josh Downs, I think no doubt he's the safest player on today's list because, well, again, guaranteed role, and when he's healthy, he produces, especially in the red zone. Troy Franklin, we talked about. Juwan Johnson, we've talked about pretty much every week on this season. He's had back-to-back double-digit weeks. Could that continue now with Tyler Shuck? I'm not sure, but what I do know is that when you have a rookie quarterback, the easiest way to get them confidence is to get them easy completions. And that is usually to a receiving running back or a big body, reliable tight end. So Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara, their upside has only increased going forward now that Tyler Shuck might be the quarterback. Now, going back to that Seattle-Washington matchup, I love Jason Myers this weekend. I think with Jaden Daniels coming back, that defense always plays a little bit better. So again, Seattle is going to get into scoring range. I have no worries about that. But can they always score? That's going to be something that we're going to have to wait and see against a spirited Washington defense. So Jason Myers, plenty of opportunity to give us double-digit points yet again this week. Not to mention, he's only had 2 weeks this season without double-digit points. So Jason Myers is almost guaranteed, at least 10 to 14 fantasy points for a kicker, which is always nice to see. And finally, for the defense, I love the Detroit Lions this weekend. They are owned in about 51 to 58% of Yahoo and ESPN leagues. However, this is a team that is playing at home, which we know Detroit is a completely different team at home. But they're playing J.J. McCarthy, who's coming off of an injury. It's his first game back. He still doesn't have any real longevity as far as being an NFL starter. So at Detroit, if they're out there in your leagues, hammer them. But if not, if you need other defensive recommendations, go down in the comment section. Again, let me know what you need. But if you have any questions about your lineup or you just want a second opinion, drop those down below. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button, man. I don't ask for it often, but we're on the road to 18,000 and we can't get there without you, man. It's been a tremendous year. But hey, week 9's are around the corner. Let's go have some fun.